It's time to get serious and talk about the evolution of turn taking. Hi everyone, welcome back. MTG Moxman here. If you're new to the channel and you've just found me in the nacho cheese universe of YouTube, thanks a lot for checking out my content today. I hope you guys loved it and stuck around right till the end to find out what's going in that 10K box. Important stuff. And of course, if you're new to the channel and you enjoyed the content, smash that subscribe button. It is free to do. Helps the channel get closer to 10,000 subscribers, which is the ultimate goal for my channel. And the party we're going to have when we get there is going to be epic. I can't wait to see you guys there. Turn on that notification bell and you will get fresh content each and every day of the week because I upload daily. Looking forward to it. So, the evolution of timing, of taking turns, of doing things a certain way. Wizards gave us this beauty. Gave us Time Walk. 1993 was a good year for Magic. Power 9. My favorite card. Amy Weber created this bad boy. That art is just something to look at. And of course the mechanics of the card. One blue, one other. Take an extra turn after this one. So simple. So simple. But was it too simple? Did Wizards say, let's keep that card going? No! They went ahead and said, oh wait, we can't ban it. We can't give it the old ban hammer. But we can put it on the reserve list to make sure it never comes back. And after they did that, guess what? Players got that itch. And they were like, we need more cards like this. We need more cards like this. We need other versions of Time Walk. And I understand, because I felt the same way. And they have given so many other versions. The evolution of turn taking in this game has changed so much over the years as they've changed the speed of the game that it's almost unrecognizable to today's people playing. So let's go ahead and take a look at literally every single time walking type card they have in Magic the Gathering. Let's start off with number 1. So of course we're starting out in 1993 and I'm giving you Time Walk. Simple enough, one blue, one other, take an extra turn after this one. Everyone gets how wonderful this card is. But now, remember this. This was the very first version and that's why it's so powerful. They didn't realize the cards that would come later that broke this card and made it like, it's gotta be Vintage Legacy only. Kitchen Table Magic, old school only. Now, we go ahead and we see Time Vault. Same year, same card. Didn't seem as broken at first. But, you know, you added all kinds of craziness and you animate Artifact and instilled it and took infinite turns and stuff. They had to ban this card. Later on, when they started not playing as much of the old Vintage Legacy formats, they did unban the amazingness that is Time Vault. So this guy did come back. He did get to come back into play. But now in like games like Old School, you're going to see Twiddle Vault. You're going to see other forms of abusing this beautiful card. And hey, I love myself a Time Vault. I'm glad I have a few of them because I would never want to give them up. But after Time Vault, well, then we had Final Fortune. I remember playing in a tournament and trying to make this work. Now, I didn't have the other two cards I'm showing you on the side, but it said, take an extra turn after this one. You lose the game at the end of that turn. Well, you better make sure you're going to win. And you better make sure that things worked out for you. You had to already kind of have it clinched up to have the damage coming in or you're a dead man walking. So, you can see here Final Fortune was an okay card. People did use it for Mirage. It did happen sometimes. But later on, when we got Platinum Angel and Isochron Scepter, and you could imprint Isochron Scepter with Final Fortune and then Platinum Angel didn't let you lose the game at the end, that's when things got kind of crazy. Yeah, it's a 3-card combo, but it's a very cheap 3-card combo to get, right? It is very inexpensive to buy this combo for yourself and put it into any deck. Amazing card nowadays that probably wasn't as recognized back in the day as it is now. Now, how about the classic Time Warp, 1997? Good old Tempest. You guys remember this. It was amazing. It was simple. Take an extra turn after this one. Very similar to Time Walk, but it cost 5. That's how they decided to correct things in 1997. They said, wow, we can give them another Time Walk card. It won't be as good because it's going to cost 5. We're not breaking the reserve list. Now, I like the artwork. I like the card. I use it all the time. And the OG printing is actually worth more money than the rest because it's OG. But guys, girls, ladies and gentlemen, It's just not as good as Time Walk, but it is part of the evolution of how things went. You can see why it's still a fun card. Now, if we go ahead and we take a look at 1998, look what we're talking about here. Last chance. Take another turn after this one. You lose the game at the end of that turn. Why, doesn't that seem just like Final Fortune? Doesn't it seem like almost the exact same card with a little bit of different artwork in a different set? Do you see how they became copycats of certain cards? I get it. They weren't as inventive back then. I like the artwork though, but they weren't as inventive. Okay, I get it. I get it. What was this, Portal? It was around that time. So, not as exciting as some of the other cards on our list, like Magistrate's Scepter, 1999, an artifact that lets me take turns, and it's not reserve list? Alright, this was a 3 casting cost artifact. 4, put a charge counter on that Magistrate's Scepter, and then remove 3 counters and take an extra turn after this one. So, for every 3 turns, you get an extra turn. And if you have a way of pumping out mega amounts of mana, and you have 4 of these in your deck, you can be a turn-taking machine, again, infinite turns with enough mana to back you up. Keep that in mind if you're going to use this card. Very inexpensive to buy. Way to go, Marcadian Masks. Awesome times. Now, second chance, 1999. You see where I'm going with this? When we look at 1999, we go, wow. During your upkeep, if you have 5 life or less, sacrifice second chance and take an extra turn after this one. Well, that's a pretty inexpensive card to use. It's a desperation card, and you got to have 5 life or less, but it's not bad. I did buy some of these, and I have used them. This is not a bad card, and it's still fairly inexpensive for people to get. You just got to build a deck around it, knowing you're going to lose some life, and you're set to go. Way to go, 1999. You were hanging in there. Now, the capture of Jingzhou, 1999 as well. Take an extra turn after this one. Why, that's an exact copy of Time Warp. It makes perfect sense. I get it. It's like other cards you're going to see on this list. It's beautiful. It's take an extra turn, but it does cost 5. No variation to it. It costs 5. Makes sense to me. A lot of fun to be had with cards like this. And the artwork, epic. All right, now, here we go with Warrior's Oath. Take an extra turn after this one, and at the end of that turn, you lose the game. Do you see where we're going with this? Do you see how they keep harking back to cards like Final Fortune? They figured this was a good iteration of the card. You're either going to win on the next turn, or you're going to lose. But what's really happening here is if you're playing Commander, you can use all these different versions with different names, find different cards that won't let you die, and you can build a deck around this. Insanity can ensue. I can see it happening now because I'm trying to do it myself in my black-red Commander deck I'm building. So we're going to have some fun with that. Great card. I can see it happening now. When we're going now, we're going to 2002, and we are checking out Time Stretch. That's right, Odyssey. Take an extra 2 turns after this one for 10. Now that seems like a massive amount of mana. But you got to remember the time, 2002, and you got to remember what you're dealing with, the cards that could go around this card. This card did cost a lot, but I've used it in time walking decks built around taking turns. You gotta have this card in there, and it's not as cheap as you think it would be. It doesn't get reprinted as often as it should be, and Wizards hasn't done it for a while. Time Stretch OG Original, beautiful, 2002. Let's go ahead and check out our next one, which is going to be the Wormfang Manta from 2002. Now, this is a 7 casting cost, 6/1 with flying. And it says, when Wormfang Manta comes into play, you skip your next turn. When it leaves play, you take an extra turn. So, not the best way of doing things. But it says when it leaves play. It didn't say die. So think about that. When it leaves play, you take an extra turn. Think about the mechanics that make things leave play temporarily and then come back. And you can see how this card could be a turn-taking machine that we could all enjoy. Let's go ahead and take a look at Timeshifter. Wow, this one's like a lot of reading to go through, but it says at the beginning of each player's upkeep, each player removes the top card of his or her library from the game. That player then hard reading. The player who removed the card with the highest converted mana cost takes an extra turn after this one. If 2 more player cards are tied at the top, the players repeat this process until the tie is broken. So, assuming you have a deck built with giant bomb cards in it, you are going to win most times with this card. epic. And if you can cycle your deck to be a certain amount of cards always on top, like a library lang or something that's always going to keep a certain card there that you just, want to have there, amazing. I love it. That's only 2003, guys. Now, we're heading up to 2004 with the Beacon of Tomorrow. I love this card. I did use it often. It says, take an extra turn after this one. Shuffle Beacon of Tomorrow into its owner's library. Yes, it's a single turn for 8. But if you had 4 of these in your deck, you had so many opportunities to keep turn taking. And if you have a few little pinchy boys out there beating people down, you can see why this time walking card is pretty epic. Now, pause for a second. Look at all the cards I've showed you. Think back to Time Walk, one blue, one other. Fast forward to Beacon of Tomorrow. Do you see how they're adding more text, more varied effects to how this card works? And the casting cost is immense. Keep that in mind as the game has evolved. Now, when we go ahead and we take a look at 2006, we are looking at Stitch in Time. A mechanic not often used anymore. 1 red, 1 blue, 1 other. Flip a coin. If you win the flip, take an extra turn after this one. Think about that. It's a coin flipping mechanic to take an extra turn. I gotta say, I did try using this. It was not as effective as some of the others, but I still put it in there because it was still a chance to take an extra turn. And when you have certain cards recycling, you can have lots of opportunities to get those turns in there. And that's what makes Stitch in Time such a fun card. It's 2006. What can you say? All right, Walk the Aeons. Another card I used. Okay, buyback. Sacrifice 3 islands. If you're desperate, you can buy this card back. It says, take an extra turn after this one. Now, it does cost 6, so it costs more than Time Warp. It's not as effective. But if you're late in the game and you have a massive amount of land out, sacrificing 3 islands is not that big a deal. If you got 20 land out and you just need to hit 1 or 2 more turns in a row, and you can keep buying this bad boy back, or if you're flipping them out, milling them, whatever it's going to be, this card could be the card to get you there. I remember using it all the time in tournaments. Now, Temporal Extortion. I like this. A black time walking spell from 2007. It says, when you play Temporal Extortion, any player may pay half of his life rounded up. If that player does, counter Temporal Extortion. Or take an extra turn after this one. Picture this in a commander deck and you are having a blast. We're only at 2007 and this thing says, hey, sacrifice half your commander's life to take a turn. You can see where I'm going with this. And it's a black take your turn. I like it. Black mana spells are not known for turn taking. It's good to see one out there. Now, when we go ahead and we take a look at 2008 with a noxious, whatever that is, noxious throng, pardon me. All right, it says create, it has prowl of 6. Okay, but it says create X/1/1 black fairy creature tokens with flying, where X is the damage dealt to your opponent this turn. If this spell's prowl cost was done and paid for, you take an extra turn. So if you pay the 4, plus you play 6 more, pay 10, you get a whole bunch of fairies, and you get to take an extra turn. So it had dual effects depending on where you were in the game and what point you were deciding to play this. Imagine all this going into a blue commander deck, turn-taking ninja. All right. Time Sieve. This does have infinite combos. You can look them up yourself. Time Sieve, 1 black, 1 blue. Sacrifice 5 artifacts. Take an extra turn after this one. Think about artifacts that make other artifacts infinitely. Use Time Sieve. Hey, the game's over already. That's why we like this card. And we're out talking, what, 2009? This was, I guess the original printing was Shards of Alara, I think? Crazy. All right, 2009. Magosi, the WATERVEIL. Now you see at the bottom it says remove an Aeon counter from Magosi, the WATERVEIL, and return to owner's hand. Take an extra turn after this one. See, if you skip your turn, you can put an Aeon counter on. If you do, you can move it later to take a turn. This is very similar to Time Vault. Skip a turn to get a turn. This is just a reworked card that is Time Vault. The difference is you have to pick up this guy, but you can always find ways of getting him back out there. That's why they invented things like Fast Bond or other cards that let you play extra land each turn. Keep this card in mind, and not to mention cards that put counters on. Keep that. It's crazy. Crazy cards out there. And this is what, 2009? We're talking Zendikar? Crazy. All right. EMRAKUL, the Aeons Torn. Okay, don't get me started. 2009, when I saw this guy, the first time I opened this in a pack, I was brutalized. Number one, Annihilator is just insane. The fact that when he comes into play, when you cast him, you get an extra turn. Insane. Protection from spells, insane. He's just crazy, and he can't be countered. When we saw the original Eldrazi come out, and I saw these guys out there, this was fear. When these things hit the board, you knew fear when you played Magic. They've taken that away from us right now. And 2009 is a very nostalgic era where I can know and remember fear when I saw certain cards played. Way to go, EMRAKUL. You rock, man. That's only 2009. All right, we're going to 2010. We are checking things out, and we are saying what is going on. And we are talking about the Lighthouse Chronologist. A level-up card that should have been brought back for Dungeons & Dragons, but no, they didn't. They should have brought level-up abilities, but they didn't. I reminisce. I look at the Chronologist, I say, this is a brutal card that I loved. Because when you level him up for 1 blue, and he gets to 7+ at the beginning of each end step, if it's not your turn, take an extra turn. The memories. What can I say? Cheap card, doesn't cost a lot nowadays, buy one. Alright, Search the City. Now these are kind of those ones that have like long-winded stuff in 2012. You can see it's an enchantment. It says, when you search the city enters the battlefield, exile the top 5 cards of your library. Whenever you play a card with the same names as one of the exiled cards, you may put one of those cards with that name into the owner's hand. Then if there are no cards exiled with Search the City, if you do, take an extra turn. So once you've exiled all those cards and gotten rid of them, you can take an extra turn. So you just need multiples of 4, and this card definitely works. It does cost 5 though. I wish it cost a little bit less, but it costs 5. It's 2012. What can you say? We're talking Return to Ravnica. All right. Okay, Temporal Mastery. I abused this card so much, I had friends who would not play with me. This card has the Miracle ability. Miracle means if you draw at the top of your deck on the beginning of your turn, and it's the card you're going to draw, you can play this card for its Miracle cost, which is 1 blue, 1 other, like the original Time Walk, and then it's exiled. Okay. If not, you got to pay the 7. But there were so many ways with Opt and other ways of making sure this card ended up on top of your library that you were always guaranteed to get the Miracle cost on it and just brutalize people. I used this with Ral Zarek, who also will be on the list. I love this card. Temporal's not cheap, unfortunately, but it's still a great card. All right. This is MEDOMAI, the Ageless, 2013. All right, we're talking some fun stuff from Theros. Flying card, 6 to cast. And it says, whenever MEDOMAI, the Ageless, deals combat damage to a player, take an extra turn after this one. Okay, MEDOMAI, the Ageless, can't attack during extra turns. I understand. Can't attack during extra turns. I get it. But you're still getting an extra turn every other turn. This is brutal. It's 6 to cast for a 4/4 flyer, and it gives you extra turns. People forget about some of the awesome cards that have been invented by Wizards of the Coast when it comes to turn taking. All right, one of my favorite guys, Ral Zarek, 2013. Ral Zarek is an underrated card, and yeah, they've reprinted him, and yeah, he's not valuable, but he should be. Because look what he does. He has 4 casting cost. Tap or untap, target permanent that opponent controls. You can tap lands, creatures, artifacts, whatever you feel like. Okay, he can defend himself by dealing 3 damage for a -2, but it's the -7. Flip 5 coins, take an extra turn for each one that comes up heads. I want you to think about that. And then go, multiple turns. And if you made sure that you could get counters on him, I think I was using Tezzeret back then to get extra counters on him. When you do it properly, you're always going to be at 7. All you need is 1 or 2 turns. You can always get him back up to 7. And it's an infinite turn combo card. Amazing. Now, 2014, the Plea for Power. This is from a great set called Conspiracy. And it says here, Will of the Council. Starting with you, each player votes for time or knowledge. If time gets more votes, take an extra turn after this one. If knowledge gets more votes, draw or is tied, draw 3 cards. See? Nice sorcery card. Yes, it costs 4, but it's less than Time Warp. You do get to vote, though. All right, UGIN'S Nexus, 2015 Legendary Artifact. If a player would begin an extra turn, that player skips that turn instead. Ooh, that's just horrible. What's this one? From Dragons of Tarkir, I think? If UGIN'S Nexus would be put into graveyard from the battlefield, instead exile it and take an extra turn. So we mess up turn-taking abilities, but we get to take extra turns ourselves. I like this card. A lot of fun. All right, another one. Part the WATERVEIL. Again, old school stuff, guys. We're going back to 2015 Battle for Zendikar. 6 casting costs, take an extra turn after this one. Exile, part the WATERVEIL. Now, Awaken, 9. If you cast this spell for 9, also put 6/1/1 counters on it. It becomes an elemental creature. So you get a giant creature and you get an extra turn. This was a fun card mythic that you could just say, yep, I'm having fun. All right, next one up is Temporal Nexus 2015, and that is Fate Reforged, I believe. Has Delve, which means you make it cost less, which is just insane. Take an extra turn after this one, and then exile Temporal Trespass. But you see, if you have enough cards, which is what decks were designed to do at that point with Delve, you were just flipping cards into your graveyard. You could cast this for 3 mana. 3 blue mana, you could get an extra turn. Great card at the time, and it still sees some play now. All right, GONTI'S Aether Heart. I guess this is Kaladesh. It says, whenever GONTI'S Aether Heart or another artifact enters a battlefield under your control, you get 2 energy tokens. Pay, what is that, 8 energy tokens, and take an extra turn after this one. Do you see how this can be brutal? Because there are ways of unsummoning things and re-putting them back into play. And this is an artifact that gives you extra turns. So this could definitely go in a commander deck built around some energy cards that have infinite loops. Awesome. All right, next up is the Sage of Hours 2016. Heroic, whenever you cast a spell that targets Sage of Hours, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Remove all +1/+1 counters from Sage of Hours. For each 5 counters removed, take an extra turn after this one. Do you see where we're going with this? There are lots of ways of targeting your creature and getting him counters. And when the counters go on, you can remove them later to take turns. Oh, you just got to keep them alive. Love that Sage of Hours. All right, next one up is Expropriate 2016. And I guess this is, Exelon? Exelon? Council's Dilemma. Starting with you, each player vote... Oh, no, this is Take the Crown Part 2, right? For more time or money. For each player takes an extra of this one. For each money, each player chooses a permanent owned by them and you gain control of it. And then you exile Expropriate. It costs 9, by the way. It costs a lot of mana. But a fun card for the time. 2016. All right. EMRAKUL, The Promised End. 2016. What is this? I guess Shadows over Innistrad, right? All right. We're looking at this one here. It says, EMRAKUL, The Promised End costs 1 less to cast for each card among the cards in your graveyard. Whenever you cast EMRAKUL, you gain control of target opponent during that player's next turn. After that turn, that player takes an extra turn. So, depending on how you do it, you can take control of their turn and mess them all up, make them cast all kinds of horrible things and do horrible things, but then they get an extra turn. So it's not quite the card you want to use like the original EMRAKUL. This one's a little more twisted, but it's still so cool. All right, 2018 Nexus of Fate from 2019. Crazy stuff. Take an extra turn after this one for 7. If Nexus of Fate would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, reveal Nexus of Fate and then shuffle it into the library instead. Oh my goodness. You see what I'm saying here? This one goes back in as well. So depending on how you build decks, Nexus of Fate is definitely the card for you. And by the way, it's kind of pricey. I think it's 40, 50 bucks still. Great card. Chance for Glory. 1 white, 1 red, 1 other. Creatures you control gain indestructible. Take an extra turn after this one. At the beginning of the next turn's end step, you lose the game. So you better win on the next turn, just like a lot of the cards we saw earlier. Think about this. Way back in 1997, they give us a card that will give us an extra turn, but you lose the end of the turn. And they're going back to it, but adding a white to it and adding 1 other 20 years later. Crazy. Wizards, you got to get a little more creative. All right. Teferi the Timebender, 2018. His -9 is take an extra turn after this one. Not the best ability, but he starts at 5. He's pretty easy to pump up, and he's not impossible to keep alive. Dominaria was a great set, and he may look like a weaker Planeswalker, but depending on how you build your deck, depends on how great the cards are that are in it. You can keep him alive, you're going to be rocking it. Next one is Mu Liangling. All right, again, look at this. -10. Tap all creatures opponent controls and take an extra turn after this one. I used this when it came out. I guess this is that series one they had out for a while. Great card. All right, next one up is the Time Stream Navigator 2018. Ascend. If you control 10 or more permanents, you get the city's blessing for the rest of the game. Tap 4. Put a Time Stream Navigator on the bottom of its owner's library. Take an extra turn after this one. Wow. Activate only if you have the city's blessing, but he gets shuffled back in as well for 4. That is crazy stuff. Next one is KARN'S Temporal Sundering for 6, 2018. You may cast a legendary sorcery only if you control legendary creature or planeswalker, so a little bit of a drawback there. But target player takes an extra turn after this one. Return up to 1 target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Exile KARN'S Temporal Sundering. So you get unsummon stuff and you get a turn. Love it. We're on our last couple of cards, and that is Aeon Frolicker. And that is a 5/5 for 4 with flying. When the Aeon Frolicker enters the battlefield, if you cast it, target opponent takes an extra turn after this one. Until the next turn, you and planeswalkers you control gain protection from that player. Pretty fun, right? But you're giving your opponent a turn, but depending on how you play it in a commander, you may want that to happen. All right, Teferi, the Master of Time. I've talked about him over the last couple of years, man. This card is epic. The -10, take 2 extra turns after this one. He is not impossible to keep alive because he can use his abilities on everyone's turn. And there's so many cool variations of him, and he's only been in one set. He's only going to come back in special sets. Keep an eye on this card, I'm telling you. Turn taking, so much fun. Look at the evolution of Time Walk. Elrond's Epiphany, that's right. We've already had this card banned. I know, it's horrible. I can't believe they kicked it out of standard already. 7 casting cost. Create 2 1/1 bird creatures with flying and then take an extra turn after this one. And you can foretell it for a little bit less. An amazing card. I understand why they got rid of it, but they shouldn't have. And the last card on the list up to this date is 2021 Alchemist's Gambit. This one again has the short version where you can just pay 3 and you better win or you're going to lose the game. But you can pay the cleave version, which gives you just 1 clean turn. But it's kind of desperation because in a standard game right now, tying up 7 mana means you really can't do a lot else at that point. But what amazing cards we have on our list. So when you think back to that original Time Walk, for 1 blue, 1 other, take an extra turn, and you go all the way through the years of Magic's history, and we end with the Alchemist's Gambit, which still harkens back to some of the earlier cards, Wizards has given us some amazing turn-taking abilities. I really hope everyone enjoyed the video today. Make sure you give this one a thumbs up. Have a great day, everyone. And I can't believe you made it to the end. It's pretty impressive. So you can give yourself, I don't know, we'll say in the comments section, if you made it to the end of this video, I don't care what year you're watching it in, because I'll be checking, you put a boomstick. Just put boomstick, not broomstick, boomstick. Have a great one, everyone. And of course, an amazing shout out to each and every one of the fantastic patrons on the channel of MTG Moxman for allowing videos like this to be created. Thank you so much, guys. I hope everyone enjoyed the video and gave it a thumbs up because this is one for the ages. Because we're time walking here, people. Really? You watched every single card on that list. You didn't speed through it. You made it to the end. 30-minute video? Really? I don't think you made it. I don't think you did. I think you zipped to the end. I think you're cheating somebody. Yeah, you did. Did you really make it? Did you really? That's awesome. Congratulations for you. And you know what? We're going to give you a General Enforcer for the 10K box. General Enforcer. Go into that 10K box just for you guys.